On today's show, it's What If Wednesday. And what if the Dallas Mavericks had traded Jalen Brunson for Tyrese Haliburton back in the 2020 draft? This is a real rumor the Mavericks almost did. What would have happened to them? We'll talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to comment anything below. Anything and everything. Let us know down in the comments below and answer this question a little bit later. Which teams should have made this deal with the Mavericks on draft night 2020? It's our big what if today. And which teams, there's 11 possibilities, or even 12, I guess, should have made this deal. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. Joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com, the What If Wonder, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
You know, I'm rocking a Rangers hat today, a lifelong Rangers fan.
Not the same one as Jason Kidd. For those on the audio platform, it's not the Rangers hat that Jason Kidd always wears. Different color.
Not the powder blue one. Just huge Rangers fan back from Nolan Ryan days.
Yeah.
And you know, I love going to the park and watching Pudge, catch. And Joey Gallo's doing great, and I just love the Rangers. So go Rangers.
Go Rangers. Yeah, on today's show, we're going to
Wings, though. Wings tonight.
Of course, the Dallas Wings play their first home playoff game since moving to Dallas. And if you can be there, be there. It's going to be an incredible night. They need the support. I'm going to be there, and you will. It will be a great night. Hopefully
if you see Nick there, take a picture of him eating nachos and tweet it at him. I need to see this. Or whatever his man. I heard that
joke was literally for one person and me, and I had totally forgotten about it.
I hope that you like to drink beer through a hot dog, right?
Only through the glizzy. Only through the glizzy or a Sour Patch straw. But yeah, Dallas Wings, it'll be an incredible night. Make sure, if you can, be there. It's going to be a good night. They need the support. And yeah, hopefully they win. If they win and move on, they play the Chicago Sky. Now we know that. So should be a good game. On today's show, we are getting into a what if. We're doing What If Wednesdays all throughout the offseason. And this one is kind of more recent, but it has some really big effects that I think could affect a lot of things for the current day Mavericks. And it's a hypothetical. It's fun. It's the off season. We love doing these. Looking back, we don't get time to do them during the season. But this one goes back to the 2020 draft, which was an important draft for the Dallas Mavericks. They had some picks in that draft, and none of them have really panned out as well as we had hoped so far at this point. The Mavericks tried to make some trades in that draft, and one of those trades they tried to make was trading up from the 18th pick, which they took Josh Green with. Before they even took Josh Green, they tried to trade up with Jalen Brunson and the 31st pick that they took Tyrell Terry with, and go up to get Tyrese Haliburton. Halliburton was taken 12th overall by the Sacramento Kings. Tyrese Haliburton is now one of the better players in that draft at this point in his career. And yeah, it's an interesting what if, because it goes into what would happen with Jalen Brunson. What would the Mavericks look like now if Tyrese Haliburton was on the Mavericks? How well would he play next to Luka? How well would the Mavericks be? How good would the Mavericks be at this point? Because Brunson had a couple of years of NBA experience under his belt by the time that this trade even happened, and he finally like became who he's going to be this past season. And so there's so many different avenues. Like, what would have happened with Rick Carlisle, Donnie Nelson? What would have happened with the offseason moves that the Mavericks have made, and all these different things? Would we be satisfied with where the Mavericks were at this point if they had gotten Tyrese Haliburton? Would they have gotten to the Western Conference Finals last year? There's just so many what ifs with this. But let's start with this. So the reason why a trade didn't happen was because no teams agreed to it. No teams wanted to, according to Tim McMahon from ESPN. No teams wanted the package of Brunson, the 18th pick, and the 31st pick, which seems insane right now considering the deal he just got from the New York Knicks, that nobody wanted this package to trade up just from 18 to 12 or 11 or 10 even, 9, 8, 7, like whatever number it is, to just go up that many spots. Nobody wanted it with Jalen Brunson included, and that's what Jalen Brunson's value was at that point.
You think that was the first time JB was like, "Oh, you don't like me as much as I thought"?
I think that's maybe the first time we've heard about him being in trade packages. Right.
I know. And that's what I mean. Cause like that was reported by McMahon back then. It's been reported since then. He's mentioned on different pods and writing and stuff too. So it's like, they liked Halliburton a lot. And, I think I can't remember this for sure, but I think Bob really liked Halliburton too. And they wanted to get him. He was
Bob Harris.
Yeah. And I know Rick Carlisle loved Halliburton. It's not a coincidence that Halliburton ended up in Indiana, nope. And all of that. But if they really wanted him. So like that's not I don't think it's a debate of they were trying to move up to get him. The question is, obviously they just couldn't get up high enough to get him because he ended up going 12. He should have went higher than 12.
Yeah.
But then you start looking at some of those teams before the 12th pick, and you're like, some of y'all probably should have done that deal.
So here's the question. Which team should have done this deal? Answer in the YouTube comments below. Let's just start with number 1. Anthony Edwards, Minnesota Timberwolves take him. Think they're fine with that one. This is now just 2 years into these guys' careers, so it's sort of hard to figure out some of these guys, but I think some of them we know for sure. Golden State with Wiseman, number 2. That one they wouldn't do the deal. They probably are okay with where they are.
I'm not thinking about this deal until 7 at Detroit.
Okay, well, let me go through the.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you were going to go through all of them.
Number 3, Charlotte Hornets take LaMelo. They're fine with that. Number 4, Patrick Williams. On the night of the draft, you wouldn't do this, but looking back, you think about this. Yeah, you wouldn't.
I don't
know if they're completely sold on Patrick Williams as good as he is with where Brunson is right now. Cleveland with Okoro at number 5. I think they think
you have Garland.
I think they think about that, but I still think they think about it just value's sake with what Okoro is giving you right now. I'm not sure that you think about it. 6 with Atlanta, Okongwu. They don't think about it. That's a really, really good young player for them
and they have Trey
that they're sold on. They still need a backup point guard. Brunson would have been a backup point guard at that point still. He was a backup point guard for the Mavericks until like the last 6 months, like the last 3 or 4 months of the season.
But that's the thing though, is like, I don't think it's worth for any of these teams. If you're just viewing Brunson as a backup point guard, it's not worth moving from 5 to 18 to just get a backup point guard. That's why I don't think if I'm one of those teams up through there, I'm not making that big of a leap back.
Here are the ones where you start really thinking about it, especially with the hindsight of 2 years into these guys' careers. Detroit with Killian Hayes. You think about this. like you would do that. You should have done this deal, basically, is where we are with Killian Hayes at this point. The Knicks with Obi Toppin.
This one is interesting because I think this was actually reported that they had discussion with the Knicks on this.
This one is less obvious than the Killian Hayes one, but I still think at this point, and the Knicks just gave him that huge deal, so obviously they think that he's worth it, and they should have done this deal. Washington with Denny Avdia, they should have done this deal. They're looking for a point guard like badly right now. They're literally starting Brad Beal at point guard right now, trying to find one. So they should have done this deal. Phoenix with Jalen Smith, he's gone. He's in Indiana too, ironically. They should have done this deal for sure.
Yeah.
And then the Spurs with Devin Vassell, word's still out on him a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think they should have done this deal too. And then Sacramento takes Halliburton at 12. So that's 5 solid teams. And 6 if you count Cleveland with Okoro, possibly, that really should have done this deal on draft night, now having the hindsight of 2 years and what Jalen Brunson became.
The Phoenix one for sure. That's the one I get stuck on.
That one's so obvious, yeah.
Just
especially since he's not on the team anymore.
Yeah, and you're kind of playing with house money there with that 10th pick. And the fact that they've been so good since this draft and they just whiffed on this pick completely. Like, imagine if they had Halliburton. But if they had Brunson and then another swing at 18 instead of Jalen Smith, I think that would have been the spot to move up. Especially
considering the players that were right around that 18th spot.
Yeah, and it makes sense of like, hey, you're moving up 8 spots and you're giving up a young point guard in Brunson that could turn out to be something at that point. Like you said, we didn't know he was going to be this good. And I think that framework of that deal would have made sense for Phoenix.
And these are the players, like, these are the best players that were taken around that 18th pick that you could have had.
Here we go.
Some of these teams could have had. Sadiq Bey, Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickly, Peyton Pritchard, Jaden McDaniels, Desmond Bane. Like, those are some of the players that you could have had. Like, if some of these teams would have made this deal, you're talking about Brunson plus Saddiq Bey, Brunson plus, Tyrese Maxey, Brunson plus Desmond Bane that they could have had. Now, this is wholly hypothetical with this, but it's interesting to look back. So let us know in the comments which of these teams in the 2020 draft should have taken the deal of Brunson, the 18th pick, and the 31st pick for the player that they took in the 2020 draft, basically. And then the Mavs would have taken Halliburton there. So coming up, we'll talk about who is Halliburton. Like, who is Tyrese Haliburton? You listening probably don't watch a lot of Sacramento Kings basketball. Didn't probably watch a lot of Indiana Pacers basketball. Who is he? What would he look like next to Luka? We'll talk about all that coming up. But before we do, imagine this. You're hanging out with some friends, putting back a few drinks. A few becomes too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think about calling for a ride. And then you start thinking, nah, I live nearby. I can make it home. I can drive slow enough. It's no big deal. So what are the odds that you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, maybe you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe. Plan ahead. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. All right, Isaac Harris, we're doing a what if. What if the Dallas Mavericks had pulled off a trade in the 2020 draft for Tyrese Haliburton? We were kind of skeptical about this deal at that point. I think even at the time, I remember going back, I think we liked Halliburton, but that's a risk to give up a guy in Brunson that you already saw had potential for sure. We saw he could be a pretty good backup guard. And then we really liked what the Mavs could get with the 18th pick. We loved Saddiq Bey at the time. That was the guy we would have taken. We thought about Desmond Bane, but that we weren't as sold on Desmond Bane. But I think I was at the time I was more sold on Desmond Bane than Josh Green at that point. But still, we liked what you could have gotten with those two guys instead of doing the Halliburton deal. Now looking back, the Mavs would have done incredibly well with this trade because Tyrese Haliburton's really, really good. He's 6'5". He went to Iowa State, and he can shoot the ball. He averaged over his second year last year, 15 points, 8 assists a game, almost 2 steals. He shot 41% from 3, 84% from the line, and he just does everything. Like, he does every little thing on a basketball court that you want from a guard with that size, and he just would have been such a great fit next to Luka. And
would you say the consensus around the league would be that Halliburton is viewed higher than Brunson right now?
Right now, after the yes,
like money aside, if you could take 1 point guard moving forward, who would you say?
That Brunson is better right now, but that Halliburton has a vastly higher ceiling. I think that's the case right now. Especially playing where he's played. He played in Sacramento. Now he's playing with this really bad Indiana team that he played with over the last stretch of the season. So, but he's got a much higher ceiling, like just size wise, and the skills and the production he's had over his first 2 years compared to where Brunson was his first 2 years. His age, he's 22. He's going to be 23 in February. So he's a couple years younger than Brunson at this point. But the thing that really got me about Halliburton is this story over the last couple months. He gets traded from Sacramento. He's in the Sabonis trade. So Domantas Sabonis goes from Indiana to Sacramento, and he basically got traded for Halliburton without any picks, really. It was like him and Buddy Hield and Sabonis, and he got sent to Indiana, and then Sabonis and that was it, got sent to Sacramento, which is interesting. Like, a former all-star guy gets traded for no picks, just one player. That's how good this player is. And he was mad at the Kings. He was so mad at the Kings for trading him because he had bought into Sacramento. He had bought into Sacramento so much and was invested in it, wanted to turn it around, wanted to be one of the pillars that rebuilt Sacramento. And he had some resentment. And he shared recently, I saw this on a Reddit post, people were cracking on him, but I thought that it was a great sign of a guy that wants to win, really wants to buy in, that he had bought in so hard to Sacramento and what they had been, even that he resented them for trading him because he wanted to be there so bad. And if he can buy into Sacramento, he would have bought into whatever Rick was saying with the Mavericks. He would have bought into any kind of coach at any point, I think, and he just would have been such a great fit.
Yeah, getting players to buy into Sacramento, it's not easy to do. We've told the story different times, but there was a player that used to play for the Mavs back in the day that we were talking to after a game one day, and we were talking about his draft and stuff, and he was a high draft pick, and we were just talking about his pre-draft workouts and all that stuff, and he looked at us and was like, there was one place I said I did not want to go, and I told my agent that was Sacramento. He's like, I didn't want to go there at all. So anyway, it's I always think back to that. But
me too.
And they had a guy in Halliburton that wanted to be there, and they gave him up. So what if he came to Dallas in this deal? What if Dallas pulled off that deal on draft night and said, hey, Brunson 2 picks, for Halliburton? Is he the second star? Like, I wrote down the thing, and I said it resets the Brunson contract by 2 years with a better player, in the sense of,
well, and he's a first round pick, so he would have been restricted, right? Like, it changes all that dynamic with it too.
Because I think he would be viewed as the better overall player. He's bigger, 6'5", shot 40% of the field his rookie season.
Takes more threes than Brunson too, which matters.
Yeah, and he's 2 years behind Brunson as far as in the contract stuff. So you kind of
age.
Yeah, so you kind of delay that a little bit of having to figure out to pay him and all that stuff. And here's the thing: it's like, no matter, we'll talk in a second of like how it would have changed Dallas's future and all the stuff you're alluding to while ago. But no matter if you think he's the second star or not, like, one, let's just say that. Do you think he would be viewed as let's assume he had a great rookie season like he did, and he still is viewed like he is now? Would Mavs fans be viewing him right now as, oh, he's the clear young second star next to Luka? From
what we've seen from him from his first 2 years, yes, I think he would be. I think he would be considered that. He's a year younger than Luka, so that your timeline is set back a little bit from where it is right now. Like right now, Mavs fans want the Mavericks, and Luka is ready for them to contend right now. I don't know if Tyrese Haliburton is ready for that yet, but you're talking about maybe they win a playoff series last year, then they're taking the steps, that they're building on it, and they're not they're not able to just win right away if they get him his rookie year. Because we're going to talk about if they had won that, would they have won that Clipper series that Brunson was played out of? Would they have gone to the Western Conference Finals this past year? But I think he would be considered that. And then there's the trade possibility with him too.
I was going to say, but that's the thing. Even if you don't think he's the second star, I think he would be even more of a centerpiece valuable for the second star. Because then what we've talked about with Brunson being the centerpiece of a bigger deal for a second star, then you have a Halliburton who right now, 2 years into his rookie contract, he would be the centerpiece with the expiring contracts, with the future draft picks, that literally anybody who hit the market right now, you would be able to go after him and say, here's our package. And you would be right there probably.
He was traded for Sabonis basically by himself, right?
Exactly, yeah.
He was already traded for an all-star level player. Imagine what you could do if you added a bunch of picks to him at this point. Then you're talking about, like Isaac said, you could get any star that comes on the market, and that would have set the Mavericks up in such a better way than they are right now. And it's because Jalen Brunson left, which is why they're left in this situation. But yeah, the way that they would have played is fascinating to me too.
Yeah. So okay, let's go back to draft night and go down through the timeline. What changes on that draft night? Does anything change as far as they're giving up the Tyler Bay pick there in the second round? They're giving up the Josh Green pick. Yes, Tyler pick, because do they make the Seth Curry for Josh Richardson trade?
Yes.
Does that change anything?
Oh man.
Because I don't know if it does, because now you're getting a guy in Halliburton who at 6'5" is theoretically a better defender, and you're moving up into the top 10 probably to get him. So you want to start him. So I don't think they make the move. I don't think they make the trade. I think Seth Curry is a Dallas Maverick.
See, I think they still would make it. Obviously, in hindsight, you look back and you're like, no, they shouldn't have made it, right? Like that's obvious. But I think they still would have made it, because that whole thing was, all right, we've got a good offense around Luka. Luka can create an offense out of nowhere. We need to add some defense. There's not enough defense. The way that Porzingis was defending at that point, Tim Hardaway was the second leading scorer on that team. The way he was defending, the way Luka had defended in the playoffs, you got to get somebody there.
But wouldn't Halliburton be that though?
As a rookie, like as a young player.
But he's a top 10 pick though. Like if you're moving up for a top 10 pick, you're committing to play the guy.
But you're committing to play him, yes, but you still need some defense and some like experience at that point. And I think they still probably would have done it.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have, obviously.
I don't think they do, but yeah. I mean, nothing else happens on draft night besides that trade. So,
but it's a big what if. That's just a big what if in and of itself. But coming up, what would Luka look like next to Halliburton? How would they play together? What would the Mavs look like right now if they had made that trade, and they keep Tyrese Haliburton, and he's been on the team for 2 years now. We're going into the third year. Would they have won the Clippers series his rookie year? Would they have made it to the Western Conference Finals like they did last year? We'll talk about all that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about BetOnline. There's so many odds and lines and spreads and everything in sports. Let's look at our Dallas Wings coming up. They are playing the Connecticut Sun. The Wings are home. It's their first home playoff game ever. They are 4.5-point underdog. You can get those odds right now on BetOnline. So go check it out. They also have a bunch of futures. They obviously have NFL. They have Eurobasket coming up. All kinds of different things that you can get. Slovenia is still the Group B favorite to win. Their odds are locked to win Eurobasket right now. You can't even bet on them to win Eurobasket, but you can bet on them to win their group. So go check it out. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Isaac Harris, we're doing What If Wednesday. This is a what if. What if the Dallas Mavericks had pulled off a trade for Tyrese Haliburton in the 2020 draft? And we talked about a lot of the good things that could have happened. The Mavericks would be set up with probably their second star of the future. He's like almost a perfect second star because he's so low usage. Like I talked about his production last year, 15 points a game, 8 assists, almost 2 steals, shot almost 50-40, like 50-40-80 basically. But in his stops in Sacramento and in Indiana, he's had like an 18 to 20% usage percentage. That's the same as like Tim Hardaway when he's normally playing. Like his usage percentage has not been super high, and he still can produce like that. That's a sign of a really good player, and a sign of a player that could play with a guy like Luka.
Yeah, I mean, everything you want in a backcourt mate next to Luka, especially at his age. I mean, he shoots the ball great, from the outside and stuff too. So like, he would theoretically be a great, perfect fit next to Luka.
Would the Mavs have still made the Porzingis Wizards trade?
Porzingis Wizards trade.
Yeah, where they sent him. Yeah, because the KP trade from the Knicks had already happened, but the KP to the Wizards trade, I think they do too.
Yeah,
and you get now all of a sudden you have the guard rotation you've always dreamed of. It's Luka, it's Tyrese Haliburton at 6'5", and Dinwiddie at 6'6". That is a big guard rotation. You still keep the wings. They probably still sign Bullock over the offseason. They still extend Dorian Finney-Smith, and then there all of a sudden you have this guard rotation, this wing rotation that you've really, really wanted for a while.
I do think, they chased Kyle Lowry very hard. You talk to really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they still would, because unless Halliburton just came out and just said, I'm a starter, I'm good enough at this point. We don't know exactly how he would look. And one of the big what ifs in this whole scenario is, how would Rick have played him? Like, how would Rick have dealt with him? Where we know that Rick played Dennis a lot, Dennis Smith Jr.
Yeah.
He played Dennis a lot, and we're like, okay. But we knew that Mavs team was tanking. Like, Mark Cuban has come out and gotten fined for that on many shows that the Mavericks were tanking at that point. We know that he played Jalen Brunson a little bit, but he didn't play him in the playoffs.
See, I just think
they obviously played Luka, but I wonder how much he would have played Halliburton to show what he was capable of, to show that he was like ready at that point. I think they would still go after Lowry at that point, because they gotta get somebody, and a third guard would have been.
I just think that good. Because Rick liked him so much, and because you're going to make the deal of trading a young player and 2 picks there to move up into a top 10 pick, then you are confident that he's going to start and you're going to play him. And I want to feel like Luka. You took Luka at 3, you moved up to get Luka at 3. If you're going to make another move into a top 10 to pick a player, like, I feel like you're going to commit to him.
Yeah.
One of my what ifs is like, do they beat the Clippers in that 7-game series? Because we've talked about, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but like, we interviewed Brunson at Media Day and we talked to him about that Clippers series. And we asked him about,
I didn't think we could do it again, but we found a way.
We did.
We found a way.
Did. But one of the things we talked to him about was how he kind of got played off the floor in that Clippers series, and he didn't have that big of an impact on that series, and they end up losing in 7 games.
And what did he say to us?
What if Halliburton was in that spot instead of Brunson?
Yeah.
And it's like, what if he gave them just a little bit more than what Brunson did? Do they win that series in 7 games or shorter? Then if they win that series, they're going on to play the Jazz in the second round. And if they beat the Jazz, they're playing the Suns in Western Conference Finals. And it's like,
maybe the Game 7 thing happens a year earlier.
But I think that's a fun what if with it. Does it change the futures of Donnie Nelson and Rick Carlisle? That one I thought about probably too longer than what I thought, because I was like, all right, because then let's just assume Halliburton has a great rookie season like he did in Sacramento. Then there's a lot of victory laps being taken, of like, hey, because once again, Brunson was a little unproven. There's the reason why they didn't offer them an extension, a year later, whatever it was. It's like, so you swing for the Halliburton thing, and let's say, he's good. It's like, there's another kind of win under Donnie's belt with that. Rick is loving Halliburton, all of that. So I'm fascinated by that. What happens?
Wait, what did you decide? What did you decide with Donnie Nelson and Rick?
I think they're both gone. Yeah.
You don't think they're both? I think the razor's edge for Donnie was only, honestly, one more player, and I think that if he had acquired that one more player that we saw could be a star, and you're building around Luka, KP, and Halliburton, I don't know. I feel like they hold on to him a little bit longer. It felt like Donnie Nelson was biding his time. The Porzingis trade, or the Luka trade, obviously, bided him more time. The Porzingis trade bided him even more time, and then there wasn't any moves after that, and you're just like, okay, well, this is not working, and
I think I'm more confident that Rick would be gone than Donnie.
Yeah,
I think it was going to be.
I'm with you.
I think it was going to be inevitable that Rick was gone. What does it change about their recent playoff, run? Does it still happen? Does he keep the Mavs afloat? Do they finish with a better record to where they're not even playing the Jazz? Luka still gets hurt, and then it's a whole thing like. Does the run even happen? Do they make it to the Western Conference Finals with Halliburton instead of Brunson? That one's a way harder to think about. What happens to Jalen Brunson's career?
I know this is a huge one, because look at the teams that we had talked about, starting with Detroit at 7 in this 2020 draft. The teams that he could have gone to: Detroit. He maybe shows some flashes, but he at least gets that. He probably gets that contract extension that the Mavs should have offered him at that point. But he doesn't get that probably max deal because they're not making the playoffs. He's not showing out in a playoff series.
No.
We'll skip number 8 for now. Number 9 was the Wizards. They pay anybody, so he would probably still gotten the money. Him and Brad Beal would have put up really good numbers. Phoenix, he would have been like the consummate, incredible backup point guard, but he's not making the same amount of money. He's not getting the same amount of opportunity even that he got in Dallas, but definitely not that he's going to get with the Knicks.
Yeah.
The Spurs would have been fascinating. That would have been really interesting for his career, because
him and DeJounte
Murray would have been a really good backcourt. I think Pop would have really, really bought into him and fallen in love with him as a player. Yeah. And that would have been interesting. But then number 8, the one that we skipped, is the Knicks. He could have just been on the Knicks. If they had made this trade, they don't take Obi Toppin. They instead trade that to the Mavericks. They take somebody at 18. Maybe they still take. They still take quickly. So not much probably changes with them, except for they have Brunson and not Toppin.
I could be wrong on this, but I think this was the first draft with Leon and them under.
I think you're right about that too.
Because I think there was a lot of discourse about the Obi stuff and how Leon and them were Obi's agent, and there was that connection of they're going to take
March 2020 was when they hired him. So this was basically the first thing he did.
Yeah, so it's like, in a way, it would almost made sense if they made that deal of, hey, going to get Brunson then and showing their commitment then. And that's a wild what if Brunson just started off his career in New York really quick.
And the Kings probably take Jalen Smith or Obi Toppin, and they're back where they are. But yeah, Jalen Brunson's career would have been really different at this point. He could have still been with the Knicks, but maybe he's with the Knicks when they make that playoff like they make the playoffs with Thibodeau, and then he still gets the same deal.
Oh yeah, I mean, just think if one of those teams made that deal, and then they actually struck gold with the 18th pick, and they took a Sadiq Bey or Maxey or something, and they're walking out of this draft with Jalen Brunson and Sadiq Bey. Like, it's a pretty dang good draft for New York.
It would have been nice if a team was able to do both those things.
Yeah, if you could have had, Brunson, Sadiq Bey. I don't know if that would have been good fit.
Or even Desmond Bane. Like, he was like.
He played. I heard that he played down the street.
Satnam.
I just learned about that the other day. I picked up a paper off my sidewalk and was reading about it.
I can't do it. Any other what other avenues can we go down with this?
I wrote down would the Mavs have rebranded by now?
We're done. No. Luka and Halliburton would have played incredibly together because Halliburton can play off the catch a little bit more. He shoots off the catch a little bit more. He can do more. Like, he's bigger. He can do more things. Like, that tandem would have just been incredible to build around if they decided to just keep him. I'm really just sold on how that pair would have worked. And the amount that he buys in, if they still did the Jason Kidd thing, like, he could have done a lot for his career. And let us know in the comment section which of the teams in the 2020 draft should have taken the deal from the Mavericks. Jalen Brunson, the 18th pick, and the 31st pick for whoever they got. Killian Hayes, Obi Toppin, all that. Let us know in the comments. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Go listen to Locked On NBA.
Peace out.
Boom.